Good morning. My name is Karyn Childs. I am a great-granddaughter of Mrs. Florence Bowser. I'm presenting to you today a booklet that I've authored about Florence Bowser. Let us begin to read now. The title of the book is Where Eagles Soar, The Story of Florence Bowser Elementary. Let's take a peek. There's the school that you can see, and let's see what's inside. It was the first day of school for Ivy. She was on her way in her Grandma Grace's car. "I can't wait to see my friends and to make new friends this year," she exclaimed. "I'm getting you there. You will not be late. We have plenty of time. Make sure that your seatbelt is on so that you can arrive safely," Grandma said. Together, both Ivy and Grandma sung songs played from the radio on the way to school. "Well, here we are at your school, Florence Bowser Elementary," said Grandma Grace. "Grandma, since we have a few minutes before I go into school," Ivy said, "can you tell me who Florence Bowser is and why is her name on the school?" "Well, for starters, Florence Bowser was an amazing person who did a lot of good things for our community. I attended the same school. The only difference is this school building is much newer. The school building I attended had the same name, but had gotten a little old, and eventually, as the neighborhood grew, there wasn't enough space in the building for all the kids in the community to attend," Grandma said. Grandma continued, "Let's see. If I can remember correctly, the school I attended was built sometime in the 1960s, way before you were born or thought of. We had a good time on the playground. I'd run and do cartwheels all day long." "Grandma, you did cartwheels?" Ivy asked. "Sure, I could when I was your age, and my legs were strong like yours," Grandma chuckled. "Wow," Ivy said. "Now, to answer your question, Florence Bowser was a teacher, like your mom and dad. The first school built in her honor was built in the 1920s or so, and it was named after her, too. It was originally a school for black children in Nansemond County, Virginia." 1920s, Ivy thought. Let's see. 2020 take away 1920 equals 100. "Grandma, that's 100 years, Ivy said. "Yes, it was, Ivy. See that green fountain over there? It's been around for a long time. That water fountain was brought over to this new school building from the original school building," Grandma said, pointing to the direction of the front entrance of the school. As Grandma and Ivy pulled up closer to the student drop-off area, Ivy continued to gaze at the water fountain. Ivy's favorite color is green. She was so intrigued by the color, she couldn't stop staring at the fountain. Immediately, she became super excited about the thought of recess and drinking from, perhaps even touching the fountain. As they continued in the drop-off line, it was now time for Ivy to get out of the car. Ivy waved bye to her grandma as she hurried into the entrance of the school. After entering the building, Ivy saw a portrait high up on the wall and wondered if it was a picture of Florence Bowser. Then she hurried to her assigned class. She didn't want to be late. Mrs. Brown was her teacher this year. "Good morning, class," Mrs. Brown said in a pleasant voice as the students took their seats at the ringing of the school bell. "Welcome to a new school year," Mrs. Brown continued. "Before we get started on reading, writing, fine arts, and the exciting things that are planned for this year, we have our first lesson on Florence Bowser, the woman your school is named after. While I'm talking, you may raise your hands for questions, and I will answer as many as I can." Many students sighed in disappointment. "Now settle down," Mrs. Brown said with a smile. "This will be fun." She continued with showing the class a picture of Florence Bowser, the one that Ivy saw in the hallway on her way to class. Mrs. Brown began. This is Mrs. Florence B. Bowser, a 20th century educational pioneer. Many hands were raised at once. What is a pioneer, Keisha asked, and what does it mean when you say 20th century? Good questions, Mrs. Brown said. A pioneer is a leader who overcomes great challenges and creates opportunities for others. The challenge that she overcame was in the last 100 years. She was helpful in getting a new school for elementary students. She wanted to improve the condition of school buildings and provide better learning environments for Black children in Nansemond County, Virginia. Another hand was raised. Well, what was wrong with the schools back then, Mrs. Brown? Well, they were cold in the winter, leaked water, and were generally unsafe for children, said Mrs. Brown. With the assistance of the community led by Mrs. Bowser and the School Improvement League, they were able to host bake sales, take up donations, and other fundraising activities. Through hard work, enough money was raised to get a new school. With that money, others gave to have the Florence Graded School built. It was opened for school in 1920. The Florence Graded School was a 5-teacher classroom building that everyone was proud of. The students were able to raise $6.18 for a new library. Only $6.18 for a whole library? That isn't a lot of money, Tim said after raising his hand. It may not seem like a lot of money now, but back then it was, and today it is equal to $103. Soon that building was overcrowded, and a new school was built close to the old school in 1963. That was 43 years later, a much more modern school with more than 20 teachers, That school became integrated in the 1970s, Mrs. Brown said. Carmen raised her hand with great enthusiasm and blurted, "That's way more teachers than before." Mrs. Brown said, "That's right. There were 4 times as many teachers as they had before. With more students, they certainly needed more teachers. Our schools have been on the same land for over 100 years. Today, our building is modern built with over 35 teachers and 40 staff members to continue to educate the children of Suffolk, Virginia. In honor of the original school building and those who paved the way for us, there is a green water fountain located at the entrance of our school. Have you seen it yet?" Mrs. Brown asked. The children in a loud chorus answered, "No, Mrs. Brown." "I have," said Ivy. "Well, I have something in mind for the class later," Mrs. Brown answered. "We are proud of the legacy left by Mrs. Florence Bowser, the community, and the children. My hope is that it will be carried on by you and in all that you do. We are proud Bowser Eagles. We represent beauty, bravery, courage, honor, pride, determination, and grace," Mrs. Brown said. "All right, now let's prepare to line up for lunch," Mrs. Brown said. As the bell for lunch rang, the students hurried to form a line to enter into the classroom. After they were seated in the cafeteria, Ivy noticed how big the cafeteria was and wondered what lunch was like in the other school buildings before this one. She had so many questions to ask Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Brown promised the class that they'd take a trip to the fountain and answer any questions the students had about Florence Bowser or the history of Florence Bowser Elementary. Ivy could hardly wait for the day to be over that she could share with her grandma, mom, and dad all that she had learned about Florence Bowser. Thank you for your attention.